So just very quickly, to recap, we had some very interesting series of talks last year regarding BIM, and CITA have set up a BIM group, which we hope is going to help promote the use of BIM. I believe it's agreed, particularly amongst the group, that the adoption of BIM is identified as being critical to drive the seamless exchange of information, of project information, and to streamline the fragmented work processes that we have in the construction industry at the moment. And BIM will achieve quantum improvements in turnaround time, quality and productivity in projects. So, as in other industries, the adoption and continuous development of modern processes and technology to the pursuit of concurrent and continuous improvements in all dimensions of the end-to-end design and construction process will eventually lead to a better model of procurement. So that's what we're trying to achieve. And really, the success of the implementation of BIM in this country, in Ireland, will depend largely on reaching consensus between architects, engineers, surveyors, contractors, construction solicitors, and project managers, etc. So, with everyone understanding the benefits and the procedures for collaborative forms of agreement that will facilitate the use of this technology and processes on projects. And I really believe that CITA, because of its membership profile and its function, is uniquely positioned to act as a central mediator between all these relevant organizations on the discussion on BIM. We can be gathering the queries and concerns from these different organizations and feeding useful research and information back to these main bodies, so that you get a joined up thinking in the country, which is going to promote the successful and quick adoption of BIM. I mean, we are behind in Ireland the rest of the world in the adoption of BIM. So because of my role as an architect, we've been dealing with the RII, and they have already pledged their support to the efforts of the CITA BIM group. And through that, I've been appointed as the chairman of a practice committee on the RII to focus on BIM. And one of the first things that came up at our first meeting is that we need to foster strong relationships with the other organizations and institutes that are represented through CITA. And so really what I'm trying to do is find a few key people within the CITA organizations who are members of these other bodies that you see on the screen here, and who would be willing to step forward and act as a representative between the CITA BIM group and their professional body to ensure that the discussion is being considered from all angles. And I really believe that any person who takes up this role will immediately identify themselves and their company as being forward-thinking and leading the field, leading in this field, in this industry. So really, I want to appeal to anyone, as I said, who's a member of this organisation to talk to me about getting more involved in the CITA BIM group. So just a few things that generally came up from a survey that we did last year was, that would be required if BIM was to be implemented successfully. And the key thing is that it would have to be client-driven. There's a general consensus that if nobody's asking for BIM, people are unwilling to make an investment or change. So, I mean, that's what I was saying. I mean, it would be key to understand whether the main procurement agencies in the country are actually even aware of BIM, or and why they should be asking for it. And I mean, there's a few there, and this presentation will be available, I presume, online, so I won't go through all of them. What I wanted to do was quickly just go through what we discussed at the first RII BIM meeting, just to give you some feedback, so that you can see the sort of issues that are being identified, and maybe you could think about these and see how you could contribute to the discussion on it. So I've got 18 architects and architectural technicians on the group who've indicated they're willing to contribute. So that's quite a good response, I thought. And at the first meeting, I mean, the key thing that came up was that if we don't get collaboration, BIM is never going to take off in this country. We've got to get everybody talking to each other, and I mean that is the whole point of BIM, is collaboration. So we broke down all the issues that we highlighted into 6 key topics, being communications, contracts and agreements, good practice, technical standards and protocols, hardware, software, and training. And just briefly, I mean, on communication was that we needed to get out reliable information to the industry about what BIM is, what the benefits are, why it's needed in our industry, to have a policy or statement on BIM so that people are aware of the industry's commitment to it, and to put information up on websites and information, papers, brochures, etc. And to foster strong communication between all the bodies of the CIC, so to get the contractors, the surveyors, the engineers, the architects, the law society, all talking to each other on these issues. And then obviously the group could inform government bodies and enterprise boards as to what the potential benefits are to the industry and the country. Obviously, for BIM to work, there has to be collaborative agreements, and I mean, the traditional agreements, I think it's fair to say, are not collaborative. They sort of pitting everyone against each other. So I mean, there has to be some sort of change now. It was accepted that change on the agreements front is going to be slow, but probably the first step would be to get some sort of BIM addendum that could be attached to existing standard contracts, as long as that was agreed. I suppose one of the advantages of being behind everybody else is that we can learn lessons from what's happened in other countries and not have to go through the mistakes ourselves. So I suppose that's probably a good thing. I think clarity on what comprises good practice when it comes to BIM, so that everybody's kind of singing off the same hymn sheet, was a key issue that was identified. So, and there's a number of issues that are highlighted there, which you might think about and see if you felt there was any area that you could contribute to. Technical standards and protocols, again, because we're slightly behind, we can look at what the rest of the world are doing in terms of standards, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we can maybe adopt or even adapt some of the standards that have been developed as a national standard. And I suppose just it was felt that there has to be a clear definition of what the skills and competences that are required in our industry. And hardware and software, I mean, I suppose the general feeling was that there's a lot of confusion out there as to what's available, what works together, and it was felt that the group could bring some useful sort of information together for people to make good decisions. So maybe to have a compatibility matrix, or arrange for open days where the different vendors could come in and demonstrate their wares on the same day, so that you can ask different people different questions, and then just links to useful training and other information. And then obviously, I mean, the key point for the successful implementation of BIM is that we need enough trained operators, and there's a serious lack of trained operators in this country. And to see if there was any way that we could re-engage, I mean, there's also at the same time a lot of people that are unemployed in the industry at the moment, to see if there was any way that we could access financial support for training for employed people, but also to re-engage all the construction professionals that are currently unemployed. So just some ideas in that area. And lastly, I mean, this is what we highlighted last year, that the CITA BIM group, these are some of the things that we might be able to champion. So, I mean, I think last year we had a lot of information. I think what we want to try and do this year as a group, or try and get a number of people together to start focusing on these areas and to see how we can develop BIM and develop relationships with all the other professional bodies. So if you want to get involved in this area, which I believe is a very exciting area, please contact me and we'll get something going. All right.
Ralph, if Ireland is on the construction sector, and we are going to try and get work from the US and the UK and stuff, we're not going to be selling builders, we're going to be selling designers, we're going to sell architects, that kind of stuff. And we have to be able to use BIM because it is a virtual service. So we want to open up more markets. BIM is it ties into tendering. Then we can't tender for jobs abroad unless we can use